A mission is a time when a preacher comes and stays with a parish for 5 or 6 days. And we have had a parish mission every year since at least 1998. My memory is foggy before that. And this past week, Father Bernard McGarty, who examined the life and theology of St. Paul and the spiritual writings of Father Henry Nouwen. Father McGarty continued what he did at the Sunday Mass, where he spoke as though he was Paul. And it was very clear that Father Henry Nouwen's translation of the life of God into the present context was very powerful for him. And what Father McGarty said, or what God spoke through him, spoke to me and hopefully to many of you also. For those who didn't pick up the materials that he had in St. Paul, there's some yellow sheets over by the piano. Of course, there's another set of yellow sheets by the piano too, but that's later. Okay, Fourth Sunday of Lent. Many years ago, we used to call it Laetare Sunday. From your perspective, how is your journey of faith this Lent? How's it going? Not necessarily from God's perspective, but from your perspective. Whatever that is, let's take it to the scriptures of today. First of all, 1 Samuel. A little bit over 3,000 years ago, the Lord asked the prophet Samuel to anoint one of Jesse's 7 sons as the second king of Israel. But he didn't tell Samuel which son. And Samuel wasn't thinking about the choice the same way God was. So after a while, the Lord said to Samuel, Samuel, don't judge from human appearance or from lofty stature, because humans look at the externals. The Lord looks into the heart. So the Lord looks into our hearts. We have our Lenten symbol. We have this reflection you received right before Ash Wednesday on prayer changes hearts. We have our bowl with your hearts in it up there. Now, Ephesians, second reading, light, darkness. Very interesting. Paul does not say that people were once living in darkness and are now living in light. Rather, Paul says, you are light. That's a lot different. You are light. Live as children of light instead of taking part in the fruitless works of darkness. Those are his words, in the fruitless works of darkness. Now, John's Gospel, the man born blind from birth. I used the short form. You know the story. To read the whole thing, go to chapter 9 of John's Gospel. Now, John writes on different levels. It's symbolic. And Jackie Miller refers to that in the Pastoral Corner today. But besides this, we have to look at this story aimed at 3 different groups of people. There were those who were present when this man was healed of his blindness. So that's one piece. Then there were those who lived about 60 years later when John wrote the gospel, aiming it at those people in their situation. Then there is ourselves, who are present at this liturgy at St. James today, on April 2nd, 2011. We're different. Fundamentally, though, John is telling all three groups how to see Jesus alive in our midst with whatever kind of blindness we might have. And what's interesting is that although that blind person was physically healed in 1 second, his spiritual sight or insight was gradual. It went in stages. It takes up the rest of the story. Our Lenten challenge is to accept our gift of sight. Yes, this kind, but really the spiritual insight kind. Remember that Jesus wants to open our eyes of faith completely. But in order to do that, we've got to open our hearts. He doesn't want to condemn us. He wants to heal us. So don't be afraid to bring your blind spots to Jesus. Don't be afraid to do that in this liturgy or in the sacrament of reconciliation. And to use the words of this man born blind, I do believe, Lord. I was blind and now I see. I do believe, Lord.